Hello, my name is Gina Coutois, and I'm the Social Emotional Learning Coordinator, and I'm also a QPR trainer.
Hello, I'm Sarah Graham. I'm one of the co-directors of counseling here at the high school, and I'm also a QPR trainer. Gina and I wanted to review with you today, for those of you who have been through QPR training, some of the facts of what to look for in students and coworkers and warning signs of suicide, and how to ask the question. For those of you who have not been through the QPR training, there will be information at the end of how you can get signed up.
I have my ups and downs, just like anybody else.
Maybe more than anybody else.
I can be hard to figure out.
And I like my privacy. I don't want you looking over my shoulder all the time.
But you know your kid better than anybody else. And if you think he's acting different than usual,
Acting really down, crying all the time for no good reason.
or getting really mad,
Not able to sleep, or sleeping too much.
Shutting her friends out or giving her stuff away.
acting reckless, drinking, using drugs, staying out late,
Suddenly not doing stuff he used to love.
or doing stuff that's just not like him.
It might be nothing to worry about. It might just be high school.
Or it might be something more. He might be depressed.
Not just feeling down, really depressed.
It might be that your kid is thinking about killing himself. It happens. More than you think. More than it should.
And people say, I had no idea.
I thought it was just a phase he was going through.
I never thought she'd do it.
I wish he'd come to
I
me.
wish he'd said
I
something.
wish I'd said something.
When it's too late. So if you think your kid's acting different, if she seems like a different person, say something.
Say, what's wrong? How can I help?
And ask straight out. Are you thinking about killing yourself?
It doesn't hurt to ask. In fact, it helps.
When people are thinking about killing themselves, they want somebody to ask. They want somebody to care.
Maybe you're afraid you'll make it worse if you ask. Like, you'll put the idea in their head.
Believe me, it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't hurt to ask.
In fact, the best way to keep a teenager from killing herself is to ask, are you thinking about killing yourself?
And what if they say yes?
Or maybe.
Or sometimes,
Well, here's what you don't say.
that's crazy.
Don't be such a drama
You're
queen.
making too much of this.
That boy's not worth killing yourself over. That's not going to solve anything.
You're just trying to get attention.
You're not going to kill yourself. What you do say is,
I'm sorry you're feeling so bad.
How can I help?
We'll get through this together.
Let's keep you safe.
a lot of people think about killing themselves. Adults and kids. Most of them never try it, but some of them do. So if your kid says,
I'd be better off dead. I can't live with this.
I'm gonna kill myself, take her seriously. Find someone she can talk to about it. Someone who knows how to help.
Sometimes kids want to kill themselves because something happened. A breakup, a failure.
But sometimes it goes deeper, and it's not going to go away by itself.
Get some help. Talk to your doctor.
Or a counselor at school.
Or your minister.
But don't just let it drop.
And make sure that your kid always has someone to turn to. Someone he trusts.
Make a list together right then. 3, 4, 5 names.
Put a suicide hotline number on there too.
Have him keep that list in his wallet so he always knows where to turn.
Make sure your home is safe.
If you have pills she could use to hurt herself, lock them up.
If you have a gun, don't just lock it up. Get it out of the house. Bullets too.
And one more thing. If you think your kid might be about to hurt himself, don't leave him alone.
Take him to the emergency room.
Call 911 if you have to.
We all have our ups and downs, but sometimes it's more than that.
If you think something's wrong, the only way to find out is to ask.
Ask straight out. Are you thinking about killing yourself?
Don't wait until you're sure. Trust your gut, because it never hurts to ask.
And it can make a big difference.
All the difference.
In your kid's life. Your words matter. Phrases that you should avoid when talking about suicide. You should avoid saying successful suicide, committed suicide, or chose to kill himself or herself. When someone dies by suicide, that circle of impact could be from as small as 6 people to as large as 32 people. And we need to be careful when we're talking about this because you don't know who could be affected by a death by suicide. Phrases that you use when talking about that is died by suicide, suicided, died by own hand, ended or took life, and died as a result of self-inflicted injury.
It's also important during this time to remember that there are a lot of emotions and feelings going on underneath the surface. We may only see the secondary emotions of anger, anxiety, or depression that are expressed by the student. However, there may be situations, circumstances, family issues that develop into feelings that may not be expressed outwardly that we can see. There are many paths that can occur that can affect a student. Many of those are not controllable by a student or coworker, such as their age, their genetics, if there's a loss in their life. These can add up and become stressors that can become unbearable. So what we want to do as a corporation through our SEL initiatives and our QPR training is to help build this wall of resistance. The wall of resistance can help our students widen their view and see that there are other options and other supports in place to help them make decisions other than suicide. One of these opportunities we have for our students as part of our social emotional learning is sources of strength. We are so excited that this initiative is now in all of our buildings. We will have a common language for our students where we can teach about these 8 sources of strength. So when something tough happens in life, we can share stories of strength, focusing on how a mentor helped us, how our positive friends were there for us, how generosity filled us with something greater than ourselves. These sources of strength can help our students build that wall of resistance to the point that they feel supported, that they feel connected to a trusted adult, and that they feel like they can reach out for help when needed. Suicide is our most preventable form of death, and it is preventable because, again, by asking the question, we give the person permission to ask for help.
So QPR is not intended to be a form of counseling or treatment. As you're going through this training or you go through the 2-hour training, we're not training you to be a mental health therapist or a school counselor. What we are doing is training you and equipping you with tools so that you can start a conversation and making sure that our students are safe. Comparing this to, this would be compared to CPR. Again, you're there on the spot to be able to help and then connect someone to help. QPR is intended to offer hope through positive action.
So what are these outward warning signs that we've been talking about? As a reminder, some things to look for in students and even coworkers or family members. A change in mood. Again, something that's out of the ordinary. Something that you may notice that it develops a little bit over time, but it's a change for the other person. A change in appearance. Maybe they have always been put together, so to speak, and now they come and they just don't quite look the same. A loss of interest in activities. They don't really want to go to practice anymore. Movies don't sound fun. Hanging out with friends just isn't their ticket anymore. A change in motivation towards school. Maybe their grades are dropping. Maybe they're not even coming to school. Talking about wanting to die or wanting to kill themselves. And it's always good to remember that this might not just be a verbal expression. It may be something we see in a student's writing. It might be something we notice on social media. Those are also areas to pay attention for some of these clues. Internet searches related how to kill yourself or other suggestive ways of harming oneself. Again, suggestive writings. A lot of times this is what's noticed. Foreshortened future. They may say, I don't really see myself doing anything in 5 years. Catching some of those verbal clues again. And like I said, verbal phrases of apathy or hopelessness or having no connection to anyone or not really feeling like they have anyone they can trust. And sometimes it is an increase in anger or aggression. That underlying feeling that is building up is expressed through those means of emotions.
The more clues and signs observed, the greater the risk. So we have to take all signs seriously. So tips for asking that question. If you're in doubt, don't wait. You need to ask the question. If the person's reluctant, be persistent. This isn't going to be very easy as you're sitting down beside them. Not only for you, but the person you're sitting beside that's really in crisis. Talk to that person alone and in a private setting. Allow the person to talk freely and give yourself plenty of time. Have your resources ready. We've provided you a QPR card and booklet. Have that with you. That includes phone numbers. You'll have your counselor's name and other information that could be helpful. And always remember, it's not how you ask the question, it's the fact that you're asking that question.
So again, a reminder of QPR: question, persuade, refer. So questioning the person. Have they had thoughts? Do they have a plan? And again, don't be afraid to ask. And if it's hard to ask the question, we want to continue to remind you that that's okay if you need to find somebody else who can ask the question for you. Persuade the person to get help. Listen carefully. Then say, let me help you. Will you go with me to get help? How can I be here for you during this time? And then that referral piece, the actual transferring that care to somebody else. And that is what we are. We're part of a team. How can we surround this student? Who else maybe do they relate to or feel comfortable talking with that we can bring in as part of that team? And then just some other reminders. Realize somebody might be suicidal. It might be small little clues that we pick up on. It might be just a phrase that they state and we need to check it out. Reach out. Asking the suicide question does not increase the risk. It is a myth that many people think if we ask the question, we're planting that in someone's mind. And the reality is, it is a myth. You're not going to put that in someone's mind. Suicidal thoughts happen over time. Listen, like we said before, take your time. Let them know that they are important and that you are there with them as long as it takes. And again, if you can't be that person, if you need to connect them with somebody else that has more time, that can walk them through to the end, that's okay too. Don't try to do everything yourself. That goes right along with that. Again, we're a team, and we can all get involved and help the student or person in crisis. Another big important one is don't promise secrecy, and don't worry about being disloyal. Sometimes the person in crisis will say, please promise me that you won't say anything. Well, we can't promise that. What we can promise is that we will listen and that we will be there with them until they get connected to ongoing help. If persuasion fails, that's when we may need to get the local mental health agency or law enforcement involved. And I would always say, if you hesitate to walk someone by yourself or drive someone by yourself, that's when you need to call 911. If you need assistance or if you feel like a suicide attempt is in progress, then always reach out and call the emergency professionals. Remember, since almost all efforts to persuade someone to live instead of attempt suicide will be met with agreement and relief, don't hesitate to get involved and take the lead. Statistics show that the overwhelming majority of people that have suicidal ideations don't go on to make an attempt. And we believe that that's because it starts with asking a question and showing that there's other options and connections to help.
So as we look at our reporting procedures, as a reminder, staff members are supposed to report a mental health crisis to their supervisor, administrator, MHT, or counselor. If you're in a building during regular school hours, you're going to report that to your principal or to your mental health therapist or counselor. If it is after hours and you are a sports coach, you're going to refer to the athletic director. And the same way with our bus drivers, you're going to report to Mark, and then Mark will connect with the principal and then the school counselor or the MHT. At that point, the MHT and school counselor will meet with the person at risk and administer the Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale and determine the level of risk. If the risk warrants a referral to a community mental health agency or the ER, it will be completed by the MHT. The MHT, school counselor, or administrator will make all the necessary phone calls to parents or guardians. You will not have that as your responsibility. It is okay for you to follow up with your administrator
and ask about the well-being of the child, but please remember that the student's privacy also needs to be respected, and you may receive little information. Additional supports will follow on the next slide. And as a reminder, every student has 2 free sessions with Bowen Center, and every employee has 4 free sessions. If you would like additional information or supports with suicide prevention, please email me, and I would love to get that information to you. And as a reminder, training is required every 3 years. If you need to be trained and you haven't been trained yet for that 2-hour training, please reach out to Human Resources for the next training date so that we can get you trained. If you see something, say something. It is crucial that we take the steps to assist in the time of crisis. And if you cannot ask the question, find someone who can.